Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories. What's going on, Tough Stuff? It is Chris here by myself today. Not by myself, but my other counterpart is not here with me today. But I'm excited about today. This is episode, I don't even know what number it is. Because we've just really been doing this thing. Now, my wife has just told me it's 18. I was kind of just going to go with the not knowing because we've been doing this thing for 18 weeks now. That's crazy. And think about people always watching, tuning in. I'm always surprised by who is tuning in. But I want to thank you guys so much for being so supportive, being so, honest with your feedback, how these stories have blessed you, how they brought you life and hope. And that's always our heart behind all of this. And so if you would, go ahead, continue to like, share, comment. Man, let us know how you feel about it because all those type of things help get these stories out to more people and bless more people and bring more people hope. But most of all, I'm most excited because I'm here today with my boy, DeAndrea, D-Money, whatever you want to call him. This is my dude. Man, I'm excited to get him to get to share his story with you guys and, man, what God's done in his life, what God's doing through his life. And honestly, I didn't think about this till a little while ago, but D is actually, now this whole podcast deal, this was Allison's heart, Allison's dream. But honestly, it was talking to you, D, that helped me actually to say, all right, let's actually do this thing. Because you had an idea for a podcast and, man, just talked about the importance of getting real content out there and, man, letting people know people go through some tough stuff, and there's some real stuff. It's not all butterflies and rainbows. So say what's up, D.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
So, man, there's just so much with D's story, and we've been doing life together. I don't know how many years now. You think?
About 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years, man. I remember just meeting you at the church. And, man, kind of getting to know you, kind of getting to hear your story. And it's been kind of bits and pieces at a time. Because D's one of those guys, I know I probably do this to people, but D's got a story. You see the glory, but you don't know the story. But, man, D will drop some stuff on you sometime. They'll be like, yeah, man, that's why I ran over to a whole nother state. I'm like, wait, what? Why? So, man, I'm honored just to even and privileged to get to really even have a space, man, for your story to live because I believe that your story is going to bless people. I believe it's going to help people feel not alone. Man, it's going to help people know that people go through stuff and God's love is not contingent on that, but it's continuous and faithful. But, man, D, just tell us a little bit, man, where were you born? What did that look like? Young D starting out, man. We'll get to some of this other stuff that where you're at right now.
I was born in here in Louisiana, in Natchitoches, Louisiana, a town, I think it's outside of Shreveport. But my mom's, I think when I was a baby, I think she moved to Dallas, Texas.
All right. See, I'm learning stuff already, man.
Yeah.
I thought everybody calls you California, dude. You got that California accent.
Well, because I've pretty much been out there since I was about 14 and 15 years old. I'm 50 now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was out there for about, most of my young life and adult life.
So lived in Texas.
Yeah, I was in Texas, and I remember I got into a fight. I think I was in junior high. I got into a fight with somebody, and they shot up my mom's house. And when they shot it up, my stepdad, he was like, "No, you can't stay here with me and your mom. You're not gonna get us killed, this and that." So my mom's had me. She put me up in a room. I was young. I wasn't going to school at the time, and she put me up in a room. So I decided to. I think I was gonna take some GED classes and enroll in the service.
How old were you then?
I had to be 14 or 15. I think I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah. And you kind of
going to the 9th
in kind of a rougher neighborhood.
Yeah.
Streets was a thing to do.
Yeah, I was in the Oak Cliff area in Dallas.
Yeah.
And that's when I started selling drugs. After the room situation, I really didn't have anywhere to go. I started selling drugs in South Dallas. I was young, and I got hooked up with these Jamaicans over there. They was the ones that kind of ran the drug trade over there. And I started dealing drugs for them.
Yeah.
And And one day I was standing outside one of the motel rooms, and the police pulled up on me. And they asked me what I was doing there. I was like, whatever. Anyway, they arrested me, and they drove me to a beauty salon about maybe 10 miles away. And they had a couple outside. There was a white lady and a white man, and they were standing out there. And when they pulled up, they let the window down, and they asked him. I just remember him saying, "Is that him?" And I remember the couple saying, "Yeah, that's him." So they got back in the car or whatever. So I'm like, "What y'all arresting me for?" And he's like, "Man, what you do with the air conditioning you stole out of there?" And I was like, "Me stealing the air conditioner, man? Do it look like I steal air conditioners?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, they said it was you." And I'm like, "You serious?" And they took me to jail. That was my first time ever going to jail.
Man, so how long? I mean, you kind of grew up. Man, your mom and your stepdad is kind of who you grew up with.
Yeah, I was there, and then after I got out of jail.
How long were you in jail for?
I took the probation right off the bat.
Yeah.
They offered me probation, even though I didn't do it. I just took it because I didn't want to be in jail, man. I was scared.
Which you kind of told me, like the lawyer guy who was supposedly helping you wasn't really helping you.
Yeah, the lawyer, she just told me, like, and I pleaded with her. I said, I didn't do it. I like, if they have to go to trial, it's fine, because I honestly didn't do it. So there's no way you can convict me because I didn't do it. You can't say my fingerprints were there. You can't say you saw me. You can't show me on a camera because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I was completely innocent.
I've been not convicted. I've been accused of a lot of things, but typically I was guilty. But
yeah, I wasn't guilty this time.
I
was honestly like not guilty of that. I mean, I was dealing drugs though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't steal the air conditioner.
Yeah. And the lawyer just kind of coerced me.
Kind of manipulated me into taking the time.
Yeah.
Taking 10 years probation.
Man, you're young at this time.
Yeah.
You don't know the ins and outs of the system.
Yeah. So I want to get out of there, man. I'm up in there with all these grown men. I think I was maybe 16.
Yeah.
Or I went to jail. I don't know if I was supposed to be in there or not. But I went to jail. I was young.
That gotta be terrifying. It's one thing to talk and be in the streets doing stuff. It's another thing when you end up in a place full of people that really have been doing stuff for real.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I had to admit, because I was waiting to go to the service. Mm-hmm. And I had to be 17 in order to enlist.
Yeah.
So that's what I was waiting on. I was just biding my time. I didn't have anywhere to stay. So once I got out, I was still homeless. So that's how I ended up. I went to Louisiana because I had friends out here. I mean, I had family out here in Louisiana. And I got out there, man. I just started. I was just bad news, man.
What do you think it is that really, like, I guess you got you hungry for the streets? Was it just that was it in front of you growing up? Or do you think there was something inside of yourself that you were really trying to fill or feed? Or what do you think it was that lured you in the streets so hard at such a young age?
I think just too much idle time with no supervision. Like I actually enrolled in GED class because I had to take care of that in order to go to the service. Mm-hmm. And when I enrolled in the class, they just so happened they were giving the GED test I think maybe that same week.
Yeah.
And they asked me did I want to take it, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I took the test, and I was done with GED. I didn't have to do I was done. I got my GED in like a week. Yeah.
So you were about to go to the service until this whole arrest happened.
Yeah, and then, me being unsupervised out there, no money, no nothing. My dad, he wasn't around, so I started selling drugs in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I've been to jail so many times, man, because I was in jail in Texas, in Tyler, too, I remember, for drugs. I was pretty much a drug dealer until I got to California. And then when I got to California, the culture was completely different.
Yeah, so you never got to end up going to the Army. So you
I never.
Trying to find it out.
Yeah.
Until you get falsely accused of this crime, get stuck in the system, and then from there you told me they wouldn't even take you. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't allow you to enlist after that.
Yeah, it was. I had to wait to get off probation and try it again.
That's got to be such a disappointment right there, especially for something that you didn't do, that you were innocent of. To see how just the system can.
I mean, I was innocent of that.
Yeah.
But I was still like selling drugs.
Yeah.
And just hanging out in the streets,
So you moved out to California. How'd you end up in California?
I had to go stay with my grandmother out there.
Because you were getting in trouble here too?
Yeah. So I got out there and it just, I was in the neighborhood just sitting on a bench one day and they came up like, hey, man, you can't be around here, man. They come through blasting. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, I'm not from here.
Yeah.
And it was like,
who's they?
It was like, yeah, still you can't be here at the party, man. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I left. But then, I didn't like sitting at the house so I would go back up there and sit around and they came to me again. And it was like, yo, you can't be around here, man. I'm like, man, I'm not from here, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I got jumped in. A dude just took off on me and I just started swabbing. Mm-hmm. And, back then I could fight a little bit.
For those that don't know what jumped in means.
Yeah, I got put on. That's when back then they were putting us on by fighting and stuff. Once it starts, when it started getting to the 90s and that's when the shooting and the killing. That's how you got put on then.
Getting jumped in. I remember thinking about the first time I did a little bit of jokes in jail. Man, that was what happened when you first got in your cell. You got pretty much jumped in. You had to put on your shoes. You had to fight one dude. And if you get the upper hand, they all jumping on you. You get jumped in. Then they all cool after that. That's the thing about dudes and girls. Dudes, we can scrap and we're done with it. We're cool. Yeah. And then my mom found out that I was in a cell with a dude who had murdered one of my friends. She found out that they were about to send me to the hospital because I might have had a broken jaw from getting jumped in. And then she tried to get me moved cells. And I was like, Mom, I don't want to move cells. I'm going to get jumped in again. So you in California, bro, you get jumped in.
I get jumped in, and after that, man, it would be, I'd go buy me some red shoestrings. Or I'd buy me a red belt, a little red here, a little red there.
A little blood.
Yeah.
Suit whoop.
So, and I always thought, being that I was from here, I always thought that I had to do more. So, come to realize I was doing like a lot more.
Yeah.
And when I kind of realized like, man, I'm the one that's running this around.
Like you're really trying to prove yourself. Yeah.
Because I always had that in my head, like, if something ever happened, like nobody ever really like knew my real name. Mm-hmm. They just knew my hood name that they gave me.
Yeah.
So I always had it in my head like, man, I'm gonna bust on you, bro. Yeah. If you do something to me, anybody in the hood, if you jump on me, I'm gonna bust on you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave. So I think because I had that mentality, I was doing a few more things than the average person out there that grew up out there and they didn't have to.
For me, it was a lot of, me not knowing who I was or my own identity for myself and insecurity that I felt like I had to one up everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you slinging coke, I'm gonna sling crack.
Yeah.
I'll get some hard.
Yeah.
You don't know nothing about just trying to prove to yourself too. And honestly, I think you're probably trying to prove it to yourself too. It's just, but man, so you grew up there wasn't really much opportunity in front of you other than the streets.
No, once I got into the streets, man, it was just I didn't care whether I was in jail. Like I go to jail, like I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like I'd go to jail, get out, go to jail, get out. I think going through that, man, and just after I think because I accomplished so much, on the streets out there and in jail, because I kind of like went to the top of the food chain as far as gangs. I was able to start calling shots and stuff like that because like I put my money where my mouth was.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna get at you if I tell you I'm gonna get at you, I'm gonna get at you. Mm-hmm. And when you start having that kind of fear from people, man, you kind of
get the respect that comes along.
Yeah, you get all of that.
Kind of respect.
I mean, it's still a dangerous thing too, cause they not finna get at you. They gonna kill you if they scared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want people scared of you. And I think a lot of people were scared of me, like in that aspect. But the thing was, I was just doing so much that people knew about it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just no hearsay. Like they knew that I was dangerous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think, man, I didn't have any kind of support, bro. I think the hood was what was important to me.
Yeah.
The respect that I started.
It feels kind of like family.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest thing for me to give up when I finally made the choice to leave that alone. It was the respect, man, that you get, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing to give up. Like when I come around and you ain't scared of me no more. It's like, and the way the hood is now, man, you only as relevant as the last thing you've done.
Yeah.
You know, after that, they don't talk
on
about
to
you.
the
You know,
next
I
thing.
go back now. The youngsters like, who is this?
Yeah.
Like, get up out of here, man. You know, because they out there, you know, living like how I was living. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it just...
So at what point did you, because I know you got some background of even being in some ministry a little bit, and did you get raised in church at all? Or how did that come about? How did you meet Jesus for the first time?
Man, I was at Corcoran. I don't know if you guys heard of Corcoran, California. I was in Corcoran State Prison. That's where they housed Charles Manson.
So this is like middle of your California gangbanging days.
Yeah, this is when I started getting older because I did a lot of time in prison. So the whole time I was on the yard, I was into everything: drugs, fighting, gambling, whatever.
Everything
you know what I
that's
mean?
around.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't even locked up. I was just in all of that. And I think what changed me, man, is I got locked up. They took me off the yard. I went to a SHU program, segregated housing unit, and they took me off the yard because I incited a riot between the Bloods and Crips. So
you're still kind of blooding at this point.
Yeah, I'm still a Blood, but they took me off the yard because the riot kicked off behind me.
Yeah.
And they said I had too much influence on other inmates, stuff like this. Now I'm giving, because in California, there ain't really no big dudes out there. It ain't no, because it's a gang culture, so it's no who's the toughest and none of that. Because if one can't deal with you, you know everybody else from that hood coming. So it's no, he's tougher than this, but I was tough though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, I'm tough. So, you know, I already know. So, I think, man, what got me is when I went to the SHU, man, and I sat in the SHU, and my program
Which is solitary by yourself.
Segregated housing unit.
Yeah.
And I sat in the SHU. I got an indefinite SHU. That means that I couldn't go back to the yard. Like once I get out, I would get released from the SHU, or if I ever come back to prison, I'm going back straight to the SHU.
Automatically.
Yeah. I skipped the yard.
Which,
So-
if you don't know, if you've ever been in solitary confinement, it is misery to sit there in that walls and not have nobody, have nothing to do.
Nothing, man. And at the time, I wasn't getting any mail from anybody. Everything was happening for me was on the yard.
Yeah.
With my homies. I was getting stuff from them, gambling. Everything I was getting, it was because of the homies on the yard and what I was doing on the yard.
Yeah.
But
So all that got cut off.
yeah, all that got cut off,
All
man.
the things that made you feel special, made you feel like you had some respect.
Yeah, all that got cut off. So I'm sitting in the SHU. No, I take that back. During that process, I got a teeth stuck in my hand from the fight.
A tooth?
Yeah.
All right.
So I had to go to the hospital there in Corcoran, Harris County. I had to go to that hospital there, and I remember.
Somebody bit you or what?
No, his teeth from the fight. It was a teeth stuck in my knuckle.
I know, like somebody bit you?
No, his teeth got stuck in from hitting him in the mouth.
Oh,
his teeth was in my finger.
I didn't know if you were hitting him or he was biting you.
Oh no! I hit him, and a teeth, and I didn't say anything about it, and my hand started swelling up while I was there.
Yeah.
So it was like, man, I got to do something about it because it was so much pain. And I remember, man, I went to the hospital, and one of the inmates in there, we was on the inmate wing in the hospital, and one of the inmates in there, that his bed was next to mine, he had AIDS. This is like when AIDS kind of
really kicking off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had AIDS, man, and we were talking about AIDS, and I was like, yeah, man, this and that, and I was just talking about it because some guy that was in the holding tank, a doctor came in, and when we went to go see the doctor told him that he had AIDS, and I remember he was arguing with the doctor or whatever. So
you were in there for that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the dude, these are two different dudes. The dude that when they pulled us out of the holding tank, we went to sat on the beds, and the doctor came in like, what's going on with you, man? And I told him my hand. And then he talked to the other dude that was in the holding tank with me. That's when he told him he had AIDS. And he was like, man, I don't got no AIDS. And he was like, and that's how I ended up talking to the dude next to me in the bed about AIDS. And then he just jumped out and said, oh, man, I got that too, man. You know, he said, man, but I just got to make sure I don't, have cold, catch a cold, this and that. And he's like, man, my girl already passed. So I was like, wow. But anyway, making a long story short, man, they had these cells and they had TVs in there. And one night I was sitting in the cell and I jumped up and I said, let me check and see if the TV worked. Yeah. And the TV came on, but they had it on the learning channel. And they had what you call a baby story and a wedding story. The baby story was about a couple, how they first conceived. It's just they condensed it all into an hour. How a couple first conceived, how they went through the pregnancy, and when they finally had the baby. And then the wedding story was about how when a couple first met, and it kind of condensed everything into that hour. And I was like, wow, is that how people living out there? So I had never been exposed to that.
Life.
You know what I mean? I'm just like in the hood.
Yeah,
you know?
like people really live like this.
And I'm like, man, wow. So I went back to my cell. Once I got out of the hospital and everything, I went back to my cell. And there had been a Bible in there that entire time. I just ignored it. My schedule would be, I would stay up from, I would sleep all during the day because I had people yelling back and forth across the cell, shooting kites and string lines and all this here. And you just hear that all day. You know what I mean? And yelling back. So I would sleep during the day. And then when breakfast come, I would work out before breakfast. We only came out I think they let us out the cell maybe twice a week to go to the yard. And the yard was just a cage. You know, we do burpees. But it's just a whole little thing. So a lot of times I would just work out in the cell. But I would work out, I would eat my breakfast, and then I would read the Bible. And then I would let my lunch, I would save my lunch, and then I would wait till I get dinner. And then I would wake up around maybe 8 or 9 that evening. And I would eat. And I'd be up all the way until breakfast. Work out again, go back to sleep during the day. So I had the opportunity. I think going to that shoe was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I started thinking about life completely different. You know what I mean?
Which is crazy to think about. That's one of the things, man, I just love hearing your story because it's it's like modern day Bible story. Like here, you get segregated, which is, literally torture. It's considered torture to be cut off from everybody else. Yet to see that's exactly where God met you. And where God began to open your eyes and transform you. And he cut you off from everything that you thought was bringing you life to bring you life. Wow. So you start reading your Bible in there and get to thinking.
Yeah, and everything is good, man. You know, I got a whole new mindset. Everything is good. And finally got out of prison. And when I got out, I met a girl. That's when I had my that's when I had my daughter. I think I was maybe 32 or 33 when I had her.
So you think in prison though, you kind of really, that's when you gave your life to Jesus?
Yeah.
You got to know his love for you, that he had a purpose and a plan for you. And
yeah, because, there was nothing else I could do to elevate myself in a gang or in prison. I was a part of everything in prison. I wasn't the one that came to prison and was humble and walked through it. I was one of the guys that tell you, look, man, you gotta stay away from people like him. You know, I was one of the worst. I was bad, bro.
You had everything you could ask for.
And as far as the gang, as far as the gang, I didn't see anything else to conquer in that. There was, I reached the pinnacle of that.
And you're still empty.
I was still there was nothing else I could gain from it. It was just, okay, I did this and that. I got the respect I wanted. What else am I gonna get from it now? You know what I mean? There was nothing. So I made a choice, man, that I wanted what I saw on that TV.
Wow.
I wanted a family. I wanted God in my life. And that's how I ended up into the ministry and stuff like that. Because when I got out, I ran into one of my homies from the hood. And he was a pastor. Matter of fact, he just texted me. He was a pastor. And he like, man, you got a lot of cats to listen to you, you know. So I didn't pedal. I used my influence. I started trying to use my influence, man, to talk to the homies, and I started using that influence for different things instead of coming to the hood. And why y'all sitting around here, man, when it's over here? You know what I mean? I didn't do that. I was like, man, why you sitting here? Why don't you go to school or something, man? Because ain't nobody going.
You got out, people still knew who you were.
Yeah, they knew who I was, but I wasn't walking that walk anymore. So if you tried me, I wasn't finna. You know, back then, if you tried me, you finna get whatever you finna get. Or I'm gonna get whatever I'm gonna get. You know, that's the kind of attitude I had. But I changed it, and you know, everything was good, man. And then, like I say, man, we all go through. I was going through the church. I was doing the ministry and stuff, and then I started talking to the pastor's niece. And, you know, everything was good, man. Like I say, my intentions were good, but I fell there. You know what I mean?
The flesh.
I fell. I was just so disappointed, man. I would literally be up there in the pulpit and I would see her in the audience, man. And like I said, it's a real thing, you know. And it got to the point where I just, you know, the pastor told me one day, man, if you're not right, you know, you shouldn't be there.
So you were like preaching at this point.
Yeah, I was literally like I was. I think that was the most peaceful time in my life. I was living in the 6-0 neighborhood, which is my hood's biggest enemy. I was living in that neighborhood, but I never got nobody ever, because I always wore work clothes. That's how I blended in, so nobody wouldn't jam me up and like, where you from and this and that. And
but you were leading in the church, but just in this relationship.
I was in a relationship that wasn't appropriate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And after that, man, I one day, you know, missing one Sunday turned into missing Bible study turned into missing another Sunday. And for long, I was empty again. Yeah. Because I just was so disappointed in what I did. And how far I came, and I just lost all of that inspiration behind what I did. Like, because she made a statement that I didn't even, you know, try to stop or anything. It's like I literally, and it was just true, man. Yeah. Like, I went straight back to who I was. And I think it just made me feel like, man, you just phony. You really is a messed up person. Because you didn't even think twice about it.
The root of all of it, I mean, we all are flawed. You know, I think a lot of times we get it twisted that we think like we're going to get to this place where no longer will our flesh be alive, and we're like now holier than thou. And I think a lot of times church even magnifies that. You start to look at people, and people act like their stuff don't stink. Yeah. And you start to almost aspire to be that, and then you get yourself caught up, and now you're like, man, I must have been off this whole time. Yeah. Whereas we need places where people can be more honest that, hey, we all struggle. Because even in the Bible, you find that. Paul straight up says, man, I got a thorn in my flesh, bro. I got something that I can't get rid of. And we don't know what that thorn is. It may have been females. It may have been, some people say sickness. It wouldn't matter what it was. But he even says, you know, I don't do what I want to do. I do what I don't want to do. And I think that's a place that all of us end up living in. But we put almost this religion around us, man, that sometimes can make us feel so ashamed. Yeah. And the Bible's clear, man, that God, you know, we're broken and we need him. And, you know, he does say, in your weakness, I'm strong. But people walk around and act like they ain't got no weakness. Yeah. And I think it discourages somebody like you whenever you trying to do right, but then you fall and you feel like you done fell all the way to hell. Yeah. But really, you just flawed, you know? Yeah. Instead of working back through that thing. Yeah. So you just kind of ran from church at that point, or just never... Yeah.
But they say when you backslide, then they say it's like 10 times worse or something like that?
There's a verse that does say, you know, when the house is swept clean, you know, demons will come back 7 times worse.
And that's what happened with me, man. I drifted back. I didn't drift back to the gangs because it just was nothing there for me no more. You know what I mean? What I did was I joined the Outlaw Motorcycle Club.
All right.
So
still in California?
Still in California. I joined the Outlaw Motorcycle Club. And when you're dealing with the club, you're dealing with ex-veterans, ex-military. There was a whole different range of people, man. I mean, I saw grenades. I've seen guns that I've never seen before. Like, you're dealing with...
different than just a blood.
Yeah, it's just not no blood on the corner dealing with them, man. Yeah. You're dealing with people that's probably did contract killings and you like, especially in California, man, you got a lot of ex-veterans out there, or veterans. You got a lot of veterans, man, and I saw that. Yeah. You know, and my club was made up, you know. And we were like one of the biggest interracial clubs in the U.S. And I just got worse with that, man. I went in there with the same attitude I went in with gangbanging.
How does somebody like get into that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that?
What it was, I never paid attention to motorcycle clubs until I happened into a club one day in my neighborhood where they were hanging out. And they came in, these rough-looking guys, man, on motorcycles and stuff, and beards and the jackets, and I was like, wow, man. You know what I mean?
It looks awesome.
That's what I might want to do right there, man. When I joined the motorcycle club, I couldn't even ride a motorcycle. Didn't even have a motorcycle, man. I just hung around for a while. Yeah. You know what I mean? I hung around, man. It was just like I started going to the functions and stuff, and I was asking them, how could I join and this and that. And I gotta have a bike, so I went and bought a bike. Didn't even know how to ride it.
Yeah.
I went in,
and you learn how to ride it behind
the
scenes.
Well, I took a riding class when Harley Davidson offers a riding class.
Yeah.
And I think I took the 3 or 4 day riding class. I still wasn't good. I mean, I could move it around a little bit. I was still scared of the bike though.
Yeah.
But eventually I learned how to ride. But I came into the club with the same attitude I went in with gangbanging.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I put myself in a position where I started having to prove myself behind what I was saying and behind how I was acting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though I didn't want that anymore because I didn't want to go back to prison.
Yeah.
But I kind of put myself in a position like, man, this what you
stuck.
been saying. Yeah, this what you saying. This how you saying you are. Let's see it.
Yeah.
So it was situations that came about where I had to be that man that I was saying I was. And man, I made another bed for myself, man. I ended up getting in a situation, man, where I was on the run again. Yeah. And I ran to New York.
Because you actually, and I don't know if you did not want to say this, but you thought you shot somebody.
Yeah, I got in a situation, man, where we had a shootout with some guys. And, man, I thought I had killed somebody, man. I'm being honest.
Which turns out you found out later.
Yeah, I found out later because I went on a run. So I was standing in a shelter in New York. And when you're in a shelter in New York, you have to have an ID. So I was expecting them to come get me any day. Yeah. You know?
Because you were, at that point, the marshals would be looking for you. Yeah.
So I sat in there, man, and I was praying to God. And I was like, God, man, give me another chance, man. This is something I didn't want. Yeah. Like the whole situation, I didn't want it. You know what I mean? And, man, God brought me through that. You know what I mean? And I called back home, and I seen them crash, but nobody was hurt. They just crashed because they were probably trying to get away and freaking out. Yeah. And, man, I was so thankful to God, and I told God, man, God, this is where it stopped, man. This is where I'm behind you.
Wow.
And I never looked back, bro. Like, it's been a struggle. But I still, it's a struggle every day, man. And then I started scamming out there, man. I got past all of that, and then I scammed, man. I started scamming. I went from the violent crimes and it led to scamming, paper crimes. I made a little money off of that, and I met a girl from Louisiana, and I moved here to Louisiana. Yeah. I think what ultimately made me decide to move here is when I went to the church.
Really?
Healing
place.
When I went, and I met you that night.
Yeah.
When I went to, it was a men's night or something, and I met you, bro. And I was like, man, I love this church, man. They got men that's getting together. Yeah. And worshiping God.
Did I speak that night?
Yeah, I think you did, bro.
All right.
I think you did because
like so and so spoke.
No, you the one that made me want to go to Healing Place, bro. Because your story was similar to mine. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you went through the same things I went through. You just went through it down south, and I was there. And I think 'cause you didn't pretend to be perfect at anything, man. Yeah. And you didn't judge me or anything, man.
No, I love it.
And you was like, you wasn't just that way in the church. Yeah. You were that way outside the church because I ran into you outside the church and we talked outside of the church. And that's what ultimately made me want to start going to Healing Place. Wow. And I thought I was getting a foothold. I opened my own business, and I started with the little money I saved up. I started flipping houses and stuff. I was making good money or whatever. And then
before we get into that, I don't want to cut you off, bro. Okay. Before we get into that, dude, I do want to just validate you, man. Like, I think, man, when you look at who you are on paper, bro, like, it looks like you are this, I don't know what people would call it, scum of the earth, what Ronald Reagan would call it. Like, you're the ones that we need to watch our kids around, and these are the ones, you know what I'm saying? But I think when you really hear your story and your heart, bro, you are a victim. Like, and I'm not one of those guys like, oh, victim mentality, let's feel sorry for ourselves. But I think, dude, you are a victim and a product of your environment that you grew up in. And bro, I resonate with you because that's all I've ever wanted was family. And we say we want respect, but really what we want is love. We want to feel like we're accepted, like we're a part of something, that somebody knows our name and actually wants for us. And the streets tell us that if we do X, Y, and Z, we can get that. And it's just a counterfeit, bro. Yeah. Everything that God creates, he creates this beautiful family. Man, the enemy's going to try to create some counterfeit. You know, so I want you to no longer walk in shame, man, of, bro, you did what was before you. You know what I'm saying? I always told this to, like when we were serving out at the Dream Center, like people would be like, why are these kids playing in the street, shooting each other, this and that? And I'm like, what did you do when you were 14? You got your mama to bring you to the mall. Well, guess what? This kid's mama ain't going to bring him to the mall, so he's going to go out and do whatever in front of his neighborhood. Yeah. You know, and that's all that you had at your fingertips. You know, that was the only hope that you had. And then you finally get hope from the armed forces going to the military, and then that gets snatched behind somebody accusing you of something you don't even do, and you get caught in the system. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I just don't want you to, like, bro, life's not supposed to be the way that it was for you. It was not supposed to be that hard. You know, I just don't want you to carry, I don't know if you do or not, I don't want you to carry the guilt of the things that you've done. Because I don't think your heart or your desires are anything that somebody who lives in the nicest subdivision in this city's desires are. Their desires are to be loved, you know, to be cared for, to be accepted, you know, and you just look for that in front of what was around you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I don't know where I was going with all that, but I love you, bro. I love you, man. I just see, like, I see myself in your story. And even, man, now, you know, we talk about the church, and I don't necessarily always feel like I fit in at the church because, you know, I didn't grow up the way a lot of people did or are not into the things. Like I would have been that kid like you that seen a motorcycle game, like, them dudes look bad. Yeah. That's who I want to be. I always like the villain more than the superhero. I like Superman's got red, blue underwear on. Ain't nobody want to be like that dude. Lex Luthor got a bald head, muscles, and a mansion, you know? Yeah. But, man, we're all chasing after love, bro. We all want love, respect, you know? I think respect and love are one and the same.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And I think, bro, like, man, you just chase after the same thing every single person is chasing after. It was just you were raised in a different environment and were given different opportunities than most. Well, not given the opportunities that most are given. So, I don't know. Back to... yeah. But so, man, you here, we get to know each other, man. I love you because you were just so refreshing, dude, that you kept it real. You kept it honest. A lot of people do that. They come into church and they put on their church face. You know, I think, man, that pigeonholes God because he can't create genuine relationship with you, or you can't create genuine relationship with other people if they don't really know you. Yeah. You know, to be loved is to be fully known and still loved. So, man, you start flipping some houses, making a little bit of money.
Yeah, I was doing all of that, man, and I thought I had put everything behind me, and it was just it was just a matter of getting up and putting the armor of God on. Mm-hmm. You know, I was still making mistakes and everything, but God's grace has always been. It's been good, man. He brought me this far, but it was something that happened. I eventually got diagnosed for cancer, and I was angry at God because I was like, man, why would you bring me through all of that just to die? Yeah. Like, I don't feel any kind of accomplishments. Like, I didn't do anything to anybody. I didn't help anybody. I didn't inspire anybody. I done nothing. I just existed. I struggled and I was unhappy, and now I'm just gonna die. You know, I thought I was getting somewhere. You blessed me with good finances. You blessed me with the skills. Yeah. That I had, and now you're just saying, okay, now it's time for you to die. So I kind of was angry because I was like, dang, I've been struggling all this time and I've been going through everything, and I turned away from this and I started making better choices, and I tried to keep my promise to God, you know, even though I realized, man, we're going to sin, we're going to fall short, we're going to make mistakes, but I still woke up every day. With your heart right. Yeah, with the armor. I put the armor on, and I might lose a wrist, I might lose some armor around my wrist or something around my leg, but I had most of the armor on at the end of the day, you know, with a couple of bruises and scratches. And But I know that was when I started thinking about it, that was the only way God was gonna get my attention fully.
Wow.
That was the only way. You know, they say desperate times calls for desperate measures. Like everything else God tried, I took it and okay, you blessed me with that. I'm happy, I'm doing good. And then I forget you did that for me.
Yeah.
And I'm back to, you know what I'm saying, whatever it was, I don't you know, whatever it was I was doing, man, that I know I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
You know, I was drinking, just doing things that
Dude, I think I
knew.
remember one of the things where I most clearly saw your heart and your desire to do right was I remember you got a settlement. You got a large lump sum of money. And dude, I've been around the church for a little while. So we have dudes that'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this settlement. I'm gonna get all this money. And I'm like, dude, that ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? You just think people just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
And then I remember you calling me up and you had it and you showed it to me. I think you even showed it me in your bank account or something.
Yeah.
And you were like, bro, I need help. I needed you to help me. I needed you to help me drinking. I can't stop drinking.
Yeah.
And bro, just that that's a supernatural grace of God there. No man, I'm not gonna say in their right man, any man in their right mind would, but like typically that would be a lease for you to go wild out and now you got all the money in the world. But man, there was still something inside of you that knew that wasn't gonna fulfill you. I remember when you called me and asked about rehabs and all that, bro, and it honored me and blessed me to the fact that you would even have chosen me to call, you know?
Well, I knew you would understand.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't getting judged. I knew you would understand, man. Like, I really felt you were a true friend, bro. Mm-hmm. And it's been that way since I've been here.
Yeah.
And we've been friends the entire time I've been here, man. And, no, I love you too, bro. For real. Like, you my boy. Even though you a minister and everybody, you know, you my boy. I just see Chris. You know what I mean? A good person.
Man, that's what I want to be seen, man.
Yeah.
So, dude, you've been fighting this cancer thing for a while, man. And we've seen you highs. We've seen you in some lows. And, dude, it's been a fight.
Yeah, but, you know, at the end of the day, man, God, he got the last answer to everything, man.
Yeah.
And I just look at it, man. I just take it one day at a time. Mm-hmm. I'm here today. I woke up healthy. I'm here today.
Yeah.
What can I accomplish for God? How can God use me today? And God may just put me on the phone with somebody and inspire them, or sometimes He may just say rest, you know. Mm-hmm. But you know, I look at life because you know any one of us could walk out the house, die in a car accident. So life isn't promised to anybody, and that's one thing I found out. Like I knew that I was mortal and that I could die.
Yeah.
That's when I found it out at a younger age than most people who gradually, when they start getting 60s and 70s, they realize, man, I'm going to be here. Yeah. And I just happened to find that out a little bit earlier than everybody else. But by the grace of God, man, I'm still healthy. I'm still moving around. I'm still doing the things I'm doing.
Which they gave you a diagnosis.
Yeah, they gave me a diagnosis. Yeah. They said I had 6 months to a year left.
And bro, when I saw you yesterday, it's been a couple weeks, but dude, you look healthier than I've ever seen you. Like, I think, and you shining, dude. You know, to think that you just had chemo this morning, bro.
Yeah.
And you're still here fighting. You look good. You're not sick. And not only that, but you're doing what you've been wanting to do your whole life. You're inspiring people right now. Through this podcast, I believe people are going to be inspired, you know?
Yeah.
And God's still bringing to fruition to the things that you wanted to do with your life. But, dude, I know one thing, this eternal perspective that you've gotten, dude, it has blessed me and it has convicted me. Because I ain't gonna lie, yesterday, I was looking in your shoe closet. And I'm like, Gucci this, Louis that. Like, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And then you're like, man, it's just material, bro. It's just shoes, bro. Yeah. And it's like, bro, it blessed me. Like, it humbles me and convicts me. It makes me put my head back on straight. Yeah. You know?
That's one thing that I've learned, man, that a lot of times we place value in the wrong things, man. Cause when you look at it, if you ever drive around and you see these houses that's getting old and rotten and going back to the earth, that's everything that's here. Mm-hmm. That's those nice shoes. Mm-hmm. That's that Ferrari out there. It's all going back to the earth. We can't do anything with. Like I said, like I was telling you yesterday, I don't understand why we would need a mansion.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Everything is for the benefit of what people see you as.
Yeah.
And that's where we place our value.
Yeah.
But once you change the way you think, like, even if you're poor or you're homeless, man, if you change the way you think, you know, your life will change, because then you'll start realizing what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I ate that day.
Yeah.
I got my help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things will get better.
Yeah.
You start thinking differently. You don't start thinking like, oh, man, I got to look nice because he look nice over there. Or I got to have this car because they got this car. That stuff means nothing, man. You got a home.
Yeah.
And you got a family. And you there. And that love, that's what true happiness is. That's what you place value in. That kind of stuff. Like, I realized that because when they diagnosed me, you know, I got a few cars, a bike, this and that, and I realized like none of that stuff was important to me.
Yeah.
I thought, but none of it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I got a car to get around, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not. I catch the bus. I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's I
we
can
almost
still
get
live.
stuck, bro. We get stuck in this almost slavery of keeping up with the Joneses or feeling like something from outside of us is gonna make us who we are.
And it's not. It's what do you call it? It's superficial.
Even in the church world, it gets that way, bro. Even in, you know, Who's Who, the Christian Zoo, getting this opportunity and that opportunity. And it's like, man, I want my heart to be more satisfied or just as satisfied, whether I'm speaking on a pulpit in front of 10,000 people or I'm hanging with D.
Exactly.
I want like, because it's all about the one. It's all about impacting somebody, you know?
Yeah, and that's what you realize, like I say, and I think the stuff that went, like, cause I'm not a victim, man. A lot of stuff I did, man, you know, God say we're accountable for the stuff we do. You know what I mean? He shows us grace and all that, but if you kill somebody or you shoot somebody, you still got to go do that time. God gonna forgive you if you ask for forgiveness and this and that, but we still accountable for the stuff we do, and a lot of stuff, man, I'm still held accountable for it. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm just, you know, God's grace is something else, man.
Yeah, I do think about God's grace once again. We talked about the shoe. You in solitary confinement, and God meets you there. And now, bro, you're in this season of, man, fighting cancer, chemo, which, man, you switched doctors now. We believe that there's going to be fruit there, that God's going to do something supernatural there. But this week, your mom was in town, and you guys were spending some time with her. And, man, God got to do something supernatural there, bro, and restore something there. And I just think about, bro, just how through the hard things, man, God always brings us. Yeah. You know, we feel like we're going 2 steps back, but really he's bringing us 3 steps forward.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I went through that. My mom just recently came and visited me. And she stayed here for 3 weeks. And I haven't been around my mom since the shooting, and I wasn't at my stepdad's house anymore.
Really?
So I'm 50 years old now, and I'm like, I don't need you. I don't need your support. I don't need you coming out here helping me with anything. I needed you back then when I was younger and I was walking the streets and slipping in cars and eating out of trash cans. That's when I needed you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I held on to all this anger, man. Like, every time she would call me and I love my moms, but I just felt like she didn't fight for me. I felt like she chose her husband over me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the Bible says, is that something I read about? You know, if your husband is drowning and your son is drowning, you jump in and save your husband or something like that.
I don't know. It says that a man leaves his mother and father. So it talks about, you know, your marriage being, you know, second before God. Yeah. I
didn't understand that back then. I just felt like
she didn't stand up. You. Yeah.
And then when she actually, we were sitting in the car and we were coming from somewhere. And I was aggravated, man, the entire time she was there.
Because of this bitterness.
Yeah, because it was treating me like I was an invalid. And she was treating me like I couldn't do for myself and stuff like that because I got diagnosed or whatever. And I'm like, man, where was all this at when I was younger? That's when I needed it. Yeah. Like, I'm cool. I can take care of myself. I don't need you cleaning up or cooking for me. I don't need your support. And then when I started thinking about it, because we were coming from somewhere, the movies or something, and she did something, man, that just kind of threw me back to, you know what I'm saying, the whole I feel like I got abandoned type issue. And man, I was like, man, that's all you do is you passive aggressive. I say you sit here and you try to act like I'm wrong for being upset about what happened. You try to make me feel like I'm guilty or something, and you playing this victim like you didn't do anything. I was a child. I don't care who. I don't care what I did. I was a child. You dig what I'm saying? So any decision I made back then, it wasn't made as an adult would have made it.
Yeah.
So don't sit here and try to make me feel guilty for being upset because you abandoned me. You know what I'm saying? You sitting here, oh, I'm sorry, and but it's like you don't even care. You just feel like I'm wrong for feeling the way I was.
It just all started coming out.
Yeah, it just started coming out, man. And she said, I'm sorry, and she said something about my stepdad. She said, Bill, you know, and then I started thinking about it, and then I remember, like, you know what I'm saying, all the money she was spending to keep me in the rooms.
When you were on the street.
Yeah, when I was on the street. I remember calling her every time I went to jail, and she sent me what she could send me. And I remember, and this has been consistent all through the years. And I started remembering, like, man, she's actually been there. She's actually been there. And then I started thinking about my stepdad. And I realized that anger was always for him, man. And I finally, like, forgave my moms because I felt like at that point in time, if I was in her situation, I would have made that same decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I realized it because right now my mom is bitter with her husband because of that.
Wow.
Like, she made the statement that none of her kids or her grandkids want to come by and see them and I realized it's because of him. If you was in that house by yourself, we would be there. You know what I'm saying? We would come, you know, but I realized it's always been because of him. And I finally, like, felt good with my mom and felt that love that had been there all them years that I thought wasn't there.
Wow.
You know?
Which is kind of like almost the same story we have with God a lot of times. We're like upset with him. We don't realize he's been pursuing us this whole time.
Man, remember when this happened and he brought me through this?
Yeah.
And when I needed this,
yeah,
and somehow this happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way God been, man. Ever since I accepted God, that's the way it's been.
Bro, I just really believe, man, even through this, dude, like, God's going to blow your mind. I think about you forgiving your mom, and I don't know if this is the Holy Spirit or this is just this coffee with butter in it I'm drinking or what. But I feel like, man, as, you know, God brings you through this journey, dude, and, like, he's going to bring you to things like forgiving your mom. And I feel like these weights are going to begin to fall off of you. And, dude, I believe that this cancer is going to fall off you, too. I feel like as you begin to feel lighter, man, your health is going to come back, bro.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for you, man. I love you, bro. I feel like God's blessed me with your friendship, man.
Yeah, I feel the same way too, bro.
And dude, I know it's a lot for you to come on here and just. We always talk about, like, man, I almost feel like triggered after I'm talking about all the bad stuff and whatnot. But bro, it's just been a privilege and honor for us to get your story somewhere, you know. And I believe this is gonna bless people, man. And dude, you're a blessing, man.
Yeah.
And dude, your best days are ahead of you. I'm telling you. I know your heart, bro, from the start has always been to bless people. You know, we talked about equestrian therapy before. And man, you've got a heart to bless people and to do ministry and help people. And I believe you're going to do that, man. Yeah,
I think. And it was something I wanted to add. You know what finally really made me forgive my moms is that I go crying to God every time I do something, and I'm asking them to forgive me. And I can't do the same. Somebody else.
Forgive somebody else.
You know what I mean? I'm like, especially the stuff I did, because nothing she did is compares to anything that I've asked for forgiveness for. And I'm gonna sit here whining and not wanting to forgive.
Now that is out the Bible. The Bible tells you if you don't forgive somebody else, God ain't gonna forgive you. Yeah. You don't hear that on a Sunday morning very often, though.
Yeah.
That ain't no Joel Osteen verse. Well, man, dude, it's blessed me to have you on the podcast, bro, and I believe that, man, we're going to do another podcast a year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Man, and share. And people are going to get to see God's glory through you. Still being here, man. Still speaking hope, you know. And I believe you're going to inspire people that way, man.
Yeah, that'd be nice, man. Know that I made some small iota of difference to somebody. Cause I'm telling you, man, when I got diagnosed, I just felt like, man, I didn't matter to anybody. I didn't do anything to anybody's life that made them better.
Yeah.
I just felt like I squandered my whole life,
Yeah.
placing value in the wrong things.
These are the golden days, though. These are going to be your golden days, man. Let me pray for you real quick. I know I don't normally do this, but Father God, Lord, we just thank you for the life of D. Lord, I thank you for the blessing that he has been to me, the blessing that he's been to your body. Lord, I pray that you open his eyes, Father, to even see. Lord, even the days he was in the pulpit may have not been living right, Lord, that your word still went forth, and your word says it will not return void. Lord, that it always is sharper than a double-edged sword, Lord, that it always is good seed that plants and, Lord, grows something inside of somebody. And Lord, I just thank you for the days ahead, that his best days are ahead of him. Lord, he'll continue to walk in a new fruitfulness, Lord, as he plugs into you, Father. I thank you that you're writing something. Lord, I think about the story of the disciples asking Jesus if the man was blind because of his sin or his father's. And Jesus said, neither, is for the glory of God to go forth. And Lord, I just proclaim that and speak that over D's life, Lord. Lord, that your glory will go forth, Lord. Lord, that he'll get to share stories, Father, that'll inspire people, that'll bring hope to those in a similar situation. Lord, as he speaks, that the doctor may have said 6 months, but you haven't said anything. Lord, you said that, Lord, you still have a hope and a future for him, a hope that's in a future that's good, Father. So, Lord, we just hold on to that today. Lord, I just thank you for the blessing that he is. And, Lord, we just love you and we worship you today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And I didn't ask you or give you a heads up on this, but Allison always makes us end this podcast by saying, and as we always say on this podcast, life can be tough, but God is still so good.